Hey guys, what's up? So today we're going to delve into something a little bit different. This is not going to be a full-fledged review of the XR18, as you saw from the title, but this is going to be a practical put-in-use application for your XR18. So let me make sure I got everything going here on my screen capture and stuff like that. And what we'll do is we're going to go through a virtual sound check with an XR18. So I have the output of the mixer being recorded onto another machine, but what we're going to do is go through each channel just like I would in a live sound environment. So this audio is actually coming from my computer multi-track, but instead of you having live inputs into the XR mixer, they're just virtual, but it's the same workflow process. It still comes into the mixer at a certain point. I can still process it all just like I would live. The only thing I don't have is live mics to worry about, like feedback and stuff like that. So we're not going to talk about any kind of aux sends or like monitor mixes and stuff like that. We're just going to go through and do a generic sound check and get ready for, say, like you were doing this live, a rock band in this case, to go through and get this thing running, get them sounding good. So I'll try to go through each of the pieces of it. I'll try to go through the input gain staging, any kind of gates if we need some gates on some mics, which I know we will for some of the kick or some of the drums, EQ, compression, and then any kind of effects we're going to add to it. We'll put into here as well, and I'll show you guys how I do that all for a show for me. So yeah, this is of course just my workflow. This is not like, not everybody has to do it this way, but this is just how I do it. Is it right or wrong? We'll see. But this is how I do it, and I've had pretty good luck with it. So let's get started. I'll show you real quick how well we're set up in here. So take the camera here, spin it around. So right here is the XR18. I have network connected up there in the top, which is connected to my home network here. Audio, the main left, right, out comes out of there and up to this guy, which this guy is recording what you're hearing. So just another setup here because I have to keep everything separate. And then the USB right here, the USB type B, comes out of here and over to this computer, which has, well, flip over to it here. There's the screen recording, which has my DAW on it, my multi-track DAW here. So this is what is playing the music, and each of these tracks are being output to individual tracks down here on the XR. And then, of course, you'll see I'll pop the screen capture here so you can see that better. But this is the XR control software that I'm going to be using to go through each of these things. So that's... It takes a second to get over here. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. We're going to walk through each of these tracks, and we'll get this sounding good. So I'm going to be listening on headphones, so I'll kick the camera off and we'll go to the screen share here, and I'll come back and talk to you guys as I work through this stuff. So catch you guys here in just a second when we go to the screen. Okay, all right, here we are with the XR edit here, and you can see here I have my desk mic here that I'm talking into on channel 16. We'll go over to it right now. I'm actually going to turn this noise gate down just a little bit. Sorry, move the mic there, so I muted it. Yeah, this is my mic. So this is actually coming in on the mixer itself. That way I have some way to talk to you guys where you can hear everything that I'm doing through the XR mixer. So this is what we're doing here. I do have a little bit of a low cut on this guy just because it's a condenser mic and it can get real boomy if you're not careful. So you can see this live. I can take here and I can notch this out and run it up down through here, so you know that it is actually live. So, all right. So the first thing we're gonna do is in any sound check, I like to get the basis of my band first. So in this case, what we're going to do is I'm going to start with the kick drum. It's usually where I start no matter what, but the kick drum is a good basis, and it kind of gives you an idea of the kind of impact that you're going to have for the band and so forth like that, starting with the kick. So I'm going to get the DAW started here, And we should see some signal start coming in here in just a second. All right, there we go. We got signal coming in. There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to bring up the kick here, and let's see how it sounds. It's pretty boomy, pretty muffled. So we're going to need to do some EQ work on this for sure. Okay, so let's start off here. Let's get some low cut in here because it's pretty boomy there. So actually, believe it or not, in my headphones it made it sound deeper by doing that because I'm getting rid of all that real low stuff that my speakers can't even reproduce. So that was the first thing we're gonna do. Second, we need to get some of this mud out of here. So. There we go. Kind of cut a little bit of that low mids out of there. Some of that junk. Now let's go ahead and get some of the snap of the beater head. I want to get some of that. So let's compare. Gonna get some extra stuff with that one. So let's change that to a parametric EQ. So what I'm doing is I'm just sweeping back and forth to try to find exactly what I'm looking for, and then I can make adjustments based off that. So let's narrow that up just a little bit. There we go. Just muted my mic there for a second, so the noise wasn't part of that. Let's get back over the kick. There we go. Yeah, like I said, this isn't a very good kick drum mic on this one. I mean, a lot of times your mics do make a gigantic difference in the recording of a song and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to use a decent mic. This one is not a Shure mic or something like that. This is probably just a dynamic vocal mic used for the kick. It's just not got what we're looking for. So yeah, it's all right. It's gonna do okay. We can make it sound good. We'll make it sound a little bit better here in a little bit as well. We're gonna add some that's a little better. It's one highs in there. We're going to add some effects to this kick drum and the snare drum as well that are going to help us get a little bit better attack, a little bit better release with some of the effects. So let's. This is a good start though. So bring up the level just a little bit of it. Okay, good. Okay. So let's move on to our next foundation piece, which is going to be our bass guitar. So let's take a listen to what it sounds like here. So the distortion is in the bass track itself. They used some sort of pedal and to give the grungy distortion, so that's not anything in my system. All right, so take a couple things out of there. Just try to get some of that boominess out because it's really, really boomy. High end, it was very harsh, so we definitely took some of that out of there. So with the kick, here's the kick. I need to bring that up a little bit in my input. Let's bring our bass in here. That kick is just is not a good mic at all. Alright, we can get a little bit better sound out of the kick here by going in and doing a little bit of gating and some compression. So let's go ahead and do that, get that out of the way. Wasn't going to do it yet, but we'll get it because it's really throwing me off here. Alright, let's see if we can... The XR has some presets in it. We're going to go ahead and just start off with one. We're going to use the kick preset. And it's a little off. We'll adjust it here. Okay, so just as an explanation, I adjusted the threshold down a little bit, and it still may need to come down because he's got some real easy kicks in there too, and we want to get through. But this is going to mute out the other junk of the drum set. It's not going to get all of it. Anytime there's a good snare hit that gets past this threshold that the kick mic picks up, that'll cause it to open. So we're going to do a couple things to help prevent that. So number one, the range, obviously we want it clear up at 60 because we want it to really pull down, get that other junk out of there. The attack, that's just how quick it acts on it. I want to get it pretty fast. You can get it down to 0 milliseconds, so it's a real quick attack. If you delay your attack here, you're going to start to lose a little bit of that the smack of the beater head. So as I bring this up, see you start losing that smack. So that's because that initial attack off the beater head is pretty quick. So we want to get that attack pretty quick. The hold, that's how long we want it to hold open at least. So usually I like to do 50 to 60 milliseconds because that lets that full transient come through and you get a little bit of the thump. And then release is just how fast it pulls back up. You don't want it to be too awful quick. The quicker you make it, the more pump it's going to kind of sound to it. I can speed this up and help get rid of that cymbal in the background you're hearing. But the more that I do that, the less of the actual thump of the kick I'm going to get through. So, yeah, I got to adjust my threshold to get that out of there. But as you can see, it's kind of cutting off some of the kick drum there too, and I don't want that. I want that full thump from the kick drum to make it through. So about 50 to 60 will get it there probably. So another thing we can do to kind of help us out on this not triggering open for like a snare hit is going to be the sidechain filter over here. So it's enabled right now. So basically what this is saying is that it's going to key off of itself, and it's only going to key with a 67 hertz or below, I mean based off of this kind of curve here, signal. So like if I had a triangle and held it right up to the mic, it would not open the gate because the triangle's frequencies are not going to be within this filter range. So being a kick drum, I can keep it real low, and so that only those real low thumps are going to open up the filter, the gate on this thing. So it's not perfect because this kick drum is just not recorded very well, but it's what I have for an example here. So I did not record this, just in disclaimer. All right, so the bass guitar, we're going to compress a little bit here too. We got some of the EQ set already. So let's take a look at the compressor. We're not going to use a gate on the bass guitar because we don't really need to because it's a direct in. So there's no other outside noise we got to filter out. So let's go ahead and unmute this and do some compression on it here. It's actually pretty squashed the way it is. I mean, you can see right there, it just kind of sits once it's in there. So we'll only compress it a little bit. Once again, the XR has presets for these, and they're a good starting place. So I'll hit the bass preset here. Wow, it's squashing it. Yeah, it's already really compressed, so I don't really need to do much of this. Now, normally I would, especially if you have a direct in bass guitar in a live situation, definitely get some compression on it, help control it. It's going to keep any of his slaps from just blowing you out of the water, and then if he's playing real light, kind of make sure you don't lose it in the mix if he's playing light. So compression will help keep you pretty level. But this is already really compressed, so we're not going to do much of this. So all right, this is just a quick 1-2. Let's go to the snare real quick and take a listen to it and see how we sound. And once again, pretty badly tuned snare there. It's real tight. Got a good bit of ring to it. So we'll work on this. Let's get this low. It's already been low cut, it looks like already, but we're gonna low cut it again here just to ensure we don't get any junk. Let's find that hum. Let's just find that good. Find that hum in there, and let's get that out of there. I just need to put that in there. Let's narrow this up a little bit. There it is. That's a little much. Just want to get that ring out of there without losing the sound of the snare. That's not bad there. Still pretty harsh. We'll control some of that with the compressor. But that's not too bad. Take some of that out of there. Alright. It's not bad sound. Crappy mic, crappy tune snare. So let's gate this a little bit. We're gonna use a snare preset. Alright, let's try to get a little bit better sound on that. Probably all we're going to be able to do for right now. Let's compress it a little bit. It does have a snare preset. We'll start there, see how it sounds. This guy plays very dynamically, so it's kind of hard to get him dialed in with this. But the compression should keep him, if he starts playing harder, keep him right in that range there. So we'll bring up the makeup here since we're killing it. That was a little loud, sorry. Alright, so that's not too bad of a place to start with that. So let's take a listen to the kick and snare. Man, that kick sucks. That's rough. And it'll sound a little better once we get everything mixed in there, but yeah, that's a pretty crappy kick drum mic. So one little trick we're gonna do here, we're actually gonna sidechain the compressor for the bass guitar to the kick drum input. What that's gonna do is it's gonna bring down the bass guitar a little bit as the kick is happening, and that's gonna allow us to let that kick come through with a saturated, bass saturated mix. So say you have your bass guitar and your kick drum, and you're basically running your subs about all you can get out of them. One little thing that's going to help you is if you can duck that bass guitar down quickly while your kick comes through, it'll help give that kick a little more impact and a little more punch. So let's do that here a little bit. So on our bass guitar here, we're going to take our sidechain filter, enable it, and then we're going to key it off of channel 1. Kind of hear it pumping in there a little bit. Gives a little extra impact on the low end when you do it that way. Alright, let's get a little bit of overheads in here. We'll get some hats in here too. Let's bring in the hats first. There we go, try to find a spot to get some hats in it. Try to get the sparkle out of it without getting a bunch of other junk in it. I'm only going to add a little bit of those because the overheads are going to get a lot of that. There's some hats. Take a listen to some overheads here. There's just the overheads. Man, those are loud. Alright, so the overheads, we're going to filter some of this stuff out because we don't need anything low out of these because we've already got them in the kick and snare. Now, normally this would be stereo. I'm only doing mono here. I have stereo, but just in the interest of saving time and channels, I'm just using it mono. This is going to be one that we can compress. We just got to be careful because usually you have condenser mics on stage with these. Just help control it a little bit because it's going to be all over the place. But this is going to be like an overall kick or overall drum kit mic here. If you have a good condenser mic up top, you get a pretty good start there for your drum kit. Then you can just bring things up as you need them. Start with that and then bring these in. Help fill it in. Pretty good. I'm gonna pan the hats a little bit here, just as a little bit of a help get a stereo picture. All right. Let's get some guitars in here. Yeah, these need a little bit of work. It's definitely an SM57 off of a mic cab of some sort. So we're going to brighten it up a little bit. You can see the frequency response is pretty narrow here. So we don't really need to low cut any because there's no low end in it in the first place. But, as I always say, high pass everything. And then we'll brighten it up a little bit. We'll kind of get some of these muddy mids out. There we go. It's not bad. It'll make a little better sense with this. There we go. Just make this so I can mute the whole things at once. One of the things that's nice about the XR is the mute group, so I can hit a mute group and then I can mute everything I need to. One of the things we're also doing with these guitars is we're going to carve out a little bit of space here in the middle for the vocals that are going to be here in a few minutes. With the having heavy guitars like that, you can really and there's a lot of the same frequency ranges as your voice. So we look here on my voice here, a lot of this is right around here in the middle, and then the guitar, it's the same thing. So we're going to carve a little bit of space here so we have some room for the vocals to kind of punch back through. All right, let's take a listen to this other set of guitars here. These I think are dry. Yeah. It's pretty dry. They're not too bad. I mean, there's not much going on here. Just kind of an effect for the background. We might add some effects to that here. Might add some effects to that here in just a few. Yeah, the problem is if we add a little bit of this, we're gonna have to deal with that with all the guitars, but yeah, we'll just kind of keep this in the background. Yeah, something got off on those. Something's a little off on these. These are not in the same time frame as that is. Yeah, we won't worry about them then. All right. All right, let's take a look. Take a look at our toms here. Bring this gate up pretty high here, probably. Fast attack. Won't hold very long. We'll leap that back through. Low cut here. It's actually not a bad sounding tom compared to the rest of the kit. Little smack on it. There we go. That's pretty good. Now listen to the second tom. That's kind of a hard one to gate. That is a tough one. A lot of boom in this one, so I was taking some of that out of there. A little on the attack. All right. That's not too bad. I mean, it doesn't have a huge impact, but a lot of that's going to be mic placement, you know, tuning of the drums themselves, a little damping on them. That's not bad. Let's hear that little loop again. The vocals here we'll take a listen to. We don't need to vote. We won't need to gate these because these were recorded in studio. So as you can see, there's nothing in the background. So we'll jump around a little bit here, and the EQ is not bad. It's been low cut already. Once again, these are supposed to be raw tracks we were getting here, but they're not.
I've got the world on my shoulders. Every labor breath.
Sparkle.
The wind in our sails, but they're rolling us steady.
Definitely need some compression on this one.
Capable, willing and raggedy, but I'm becoming a ghost. A cold parody of what I believed. I never said I was a good man. I never told you I was fit enough to even try.
It's actually not pretty bad. The auto time actually was pretty decent on that one.
But it gave me everything that I need to.
Don't be afraid to use the presets and the auto stuff. I mean, if it works, it works. It doesn't really matter how, if it's correct or not correct in someone's eyes. If it sounds good, use it.
My body's torn.
Doing some screaming, so my ratio is pretty high.
That the road better off. My body's torn and bloody. My can fly true. People burn life to find the pain of flying. I never said I was a good man. I never told you I was fit enough to even try. I know you're not a strong man, but it gave me everything that I need to survive.
Some of these background vocals suck. I don't know what that was.
But it gave me everything that I need to survive.
we've also got some synths in here. We'll pull in here.
I've got the world on my shoulders.
These need to be a little bit compressed because they're kind of all over the place. Crank that ratio up on these since they're direct ends.
Let's
add a little reverb into this guy here. I have a reverb patched into FX1 over here.
I never said I was a good man.
Yeah, some of these background vocals are a little rough. So we'll just mute them out here. Let's take a listen to the main vocal.
But it gave me everything that I need to survive.
That's what I have right here. See, I'm selecting on FX1, bringing it in there a little bit. I believe there's a delay on FX3 and another reverb maybe on FX2. This is a pretty good reverb though. I believe this is a vintage reverb. Yeah, vintage room reverb here. Say it 3 times real fast.
But if I end up out of gas in an iron,
that's pretty good.
Right out of stand,
good for this music.
The road better rough. My body's torn aplenty. My heart can't fly true. I never said I was a good man. I never told you I was spinning after leaving Joy. But it gave me everything that I need to survive. I believe I never said I was a good man. I never told you I was spinning after leaving Joy. But it gave me everything that I need to survive. But if I end up out of gas in an iron, right out of stand, and the road better rough. My body's torn aplenty, my heart can't fly true. I never said I was a good man. I never told you I was spinning after leaving Joy. But it gave me everything that I need to survive.
Alright, so we're going to do something now with this kick and snare to help bring them out a little bit using the Wave Designer plugin here. Hopefully you can see it there. So right now, this just basically has an attack, sustain, and gain options on it. But they sound really good. So let's go ahead and patch this into. We're going to run it as an insert on channels 1 and channel 2. You'll see them coming in now, kick and snare. Now this will just do the final insert from the channel. So now the channels are running through there. So let's take a look at listen to the kick first. What's the kick? It's going to be on channel A. So let's bring up the attack. Whoa. Really brought it up there, as you can hear. Really brought that smack out into it. Put on the sustain, you hear what it changes it to. Got to keep some of it in there, so we'll bring that down a little bit, tack out. We definitely don't need to bring the gain up because we're already peaking out the way it is. Really gives that pop to it, that snap. All right, let's add a little to the snare. Now this is really gonna, the snare's already got a lot of snap to it, so we probably won't increase the attack that much on this one. Actually bring it down if we needed to. Then bring that sustain up, gives it a little bigger feel. Definitely jump out now. All right, so one more thing we're going to do here is we'll do a little bit of, you can see it already working here. Add a little multiband compression to the main output on an effect here. I never really covered doing some of this stuff, so we're going to do it here. So on Effects 3 slot, I have added the stereo Combinator. Like I said, I'll be using all my effects here at this point. The vocals are going to be running through the vintage room, kick and snares to the Wave Designer to help give that extra smack and punch to it. Effects 4, I got that guitar amp plug-in, which in reality, since I didn't really bring up that guitar 2, it's not going to really be doing much. But but it's still running on it. So stereo Combinator is a multi-band compressor. You can see it here. This is going to be, what I've done is I've inserted this into the main left-right bus. So anything that's coming out of the main left-right will be affected by this. So let's go ahead and insert it here. And you can probably hear it made a little bit of a difference there. But what this allows us to do is to compress bands of audio independently. So like say your low end band here, which we'll hear in just a second, I can compress it independently from the high stuff. So what that's going to do is if I have a real big, low note, it's not going to compress the entire frequency range just for that one low note to bring it down. It's going to bring just that low note down instead of bringing everything down. And so this gives an independence between it and helps give a lot more natural feel to compressing a bus or like a main output where you've got a lot of different things coming through. So let's fire this up. It is fired up, but let's take a look here. Yeah, you can see we've already got some audio running through it. There's no lows because of course my mic's low cut. But this is the individual frequency bands that you're seeing here. So you hear my S's, they're all on the high here. My main vocal itself is in the middle. So what we can do is we can compress things independently of each other. And we'll solo some of them here to take a listen to it. So let's unmute some stuff and take a listen. So right now with the ratio it's at, it's not actually compressing anything. This is the gain reduction for each of the bands. And we'll adjust the overall ratio and then the overall trim threshold. The threshold's at 0 right now, so I'd have to be really cranking this to get this to start compressing. So we'll bring the threshold down and let it start doing some stuff and see what it sounds like. Yeah, you can see it's definitely compressing the kick in that as well. so when I just soloed that there for a second, I just soloed what was being compressed or what was going through this low band here, and so you could kind of hear it rumble it and see how much it's compressing it. So I can't talk on my mic while I'm doing it at the same time, so I'll just do it here again for you. Well, that's pretty much it, I think. That'll be an okay sound. Like I said, I would go in a live situation and I would make adjustments based on how things sounded. Quiet. How things sounded, as I worked through and the conditions outside and the room I was in and the PA I was on. Obviously, I would make PA adjustments from the left-right bus here. Any kind of EQ I needed to do to the PA, I would do from here. And I'd make it sound good. I don't like things being super harsh. These kick and snares are pretty harsh, but a lot of it's the mic that were used on this demo. It's not the best. This isn't the best demo to do this on, but it's what I had, so that's what we're gonna go with. So anyway, that's a little example of what's going on here. So yeah, that's a good example of what we got going on here. This is like I said, this was quick and dirty. I just did this to kind of give an example of how to use some of this stuff. If I was doing monitor mixes on this XR18, since I'm sure I'm gonna get asked about that, you can do those from right here on the right side here, these buses. So these are the individual outputs on the front of the XR itself, 1 through 6. And so each of these outputs can have their own mix. So say I was the drummer back there, and I wanted just some I wanted my own kick for whatever reason. And I just wanted some bass drum and just some little bit of guitar and then vocals, but I didn't want to hear any of this other stuff, or even the second set of guitars or something. You could give him a mix of that and say bus 2 you had was the main vocalist. Well, he's definitely going to need his mic a lot, so he can hear himself. He's probably going to want a little bit of guitar, but not too much. He doesn't want to go over his vocal. He can hear the drum kick since it's right behind him. And then maybe a little bit of bass if it's not too powerful already. And then that can be his mix. The next guy you have down there, he doesn't want any of the vocals. He just wants guitar and bass because that's what he works with. And he needs to hear that kick a little louder, so he wants a little bit of kick and, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You can go through and just make the mix for what you want. Each individual output has its own mix on it, so you got 6 of them, so you can get pretty intricate with it. This can get a little tough if you're in a live environment with like a festival environment where you have different bands and it's not somebody you're used to. In that case, I end up doing a lot of the monitors on the front are on a single mix, or even just half and half, something like that. You don't have to go individual with each monitor because it can get a little overwhelming. with each individual band coming in, having to make a ton of adjustments for what they want. Obviously, get them their levels they want, but sometimes it can be easier to run a single mix across the front, make sure everybody can hear their vocals real well, you can hear what's going on, and they can be pretty happy with that. But if you want to get more intricate, you can do it a little bit different. The drummer usually needs a little bit different mix because of his situation and where he's at. So certain things need to be a little more prominent there. So other than that, I think I've talked on here long enough. Well, probably really long. It's almost an hour, probably. So that's a quick dirty overview of the XR18 and a little bit of a virtual sound check there. I could save this snapshot off, and if I, of course, for whatever reason, had those same inputs, I could load that into the XR18 and go to a show and use it. But obviously, mics are going to be different. Placements are going to be different, so you can't always rely on things like that. But if you do the same thing every time at every show, save you a snapshot, you record your multi-track in, go back to the house, work on that multi-track, get your EQ set where you want to, save a new snapshot, and then you can try that new snapshot out at your next show, and boom, Bob's your uncle. So, all right, I think that'll be it. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. If you like it, please leave comments and questions and so forth, and I'll do my best to answer. Catch you guys later.